Emma stirred slowly, the weight of an unfamiliar heaviness pulling her from the depths of sleep. As her eyelids fluttered open, she was met with a muted glow filtering through heavy, dark curtains. The air felt thick and stale, a sharp contrast to the fresh morning she instinctively knew should be outside. She blinked, trying to orient herself in this dimly lit room that felt more like a dream than reality. Her heart raced as she took in her surroundings. The walls were painted a deep burgundy, adorned with abstract art that seemed to twist and turn in ways that made her head spin. A plush, velvety armchair sat in one corner, its fabric worn but inviting. There were no personal items around, no photographs or belongings that hinted at who she was or how she had ended up here. It was as if the room itself was a blank slate, devoid of any familiarity. Pushing herself up on the bed, Emma winced at the dull ache in her neck. The sheets were cool against her skin, contrasting with the rising panic inside her chest. She glanced at the bedside table where a small lamp flickered weakly, casting shadows that danced across the walls. Next to it lay a half-empty wine bottle, its contents glinting ominously in the low light. She frowned at it, realizing she couldn't remember drinking at all. She rubbed her temples and tried to shake off the confusion clouding her mind. What happened last night, she whispered to herself as if voicing the question could somehow conjure an answer. But nothing came, her memory was an impenetrable fog. With a deep breath, Emma swung her legs over the side of the bed and planted her feet on the cold wooden floor. The contact sent a shiver up her spine. She stood slowly, testing her balance as she took a moment to gather herself. The room spun slightly as she steadied herself against the bedpost, her heart pounding louder than before. Desperate for clarity, she turned toward a small mirror hanging on the wall opposite her. Her reflection stared back, a young woman with tousled hair and wide eyes filled with uncertainty. There were dark circles beneath her eyes that spoke of restless nights or perhaps something more sinister. She looked like someone who had been through something traumatic, though she couldn't quite grasp what that might be. As she stepped closer to the mirror, Emma caught sight of something glinting on the bedside table, a keycard nestled beside the wine bottle. Reaching for it with trembling fingers, she flipped it over to reveal an emblem of the hotel along with a room number, 312. "This is my room," she muttered incredulously. Her mind raced with questions as she turned back toward the window, peering through the slats of light filtering in from outside. She could hear faint sounds, laughter mingling with music and distant chatter that hinted at life beyond these four walls. It was unsettling, like being trapped in a bubble while the world continued on without her. With renewed determination, Emma scanned the room for any additional clues that could help jog her memory. On the desk sat a crumpled piece of paper. Her heart skipped when she noticed it was covered in hurried handwriting. She unfolded it carefully and read, "Meet me at 8 p.m., don't forget your promise." The words sent chills down her spine. They felt both familiar and foreign. What promise? Who had written this note? Each question only deepened her sense of unease. Suddenly feeling overwhelmed by a mix of dread and curiosity, Emma grabbed her phone from where it lay charging on the desk. As it powered up, she glanced around once more before heading toward the door. Each step felt heavy with uncertainty. The unknown loomed before her like an uncharted territory teeming with hidden dangers. With one last glance over her shoulder into the strange hotel room that had become both a sanctuary and a prison, Emma steeled herself for whatever lay beyond that door. She needed answers about who she was and why she found herself in this surreal nightmare. And as doubts crept into her thoughts again, one thought burned brightly amidst the chaos: she had to find out what happened last night before it consumed her completely. As Emma stood at the threshold of the room, the weight of uncertainty pressed down on her. She took a deep breath and stepped fully into the space, her eyes darting around as she searched for anything that might spark a memory or provide answers to her mounting questions. The half-empty wine bottle caught her attention first, its dark glass glistening ominously under the dim light of the bedside lamp. She moved closer, noting that it was still cool to the touch, as if it had been opened only recently. Gripping the neck of the bottle, she turned it slowly in her hands, contemplating its contents. Why was it here? Had she been drinking alone? Or had someone else been with her? A twinge of anxiety shot through her. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this night than what met the eye. The thought made her stomach churn. Beside the bottle lay the strange keycard she had noticed earlier. She picked it up once more and examined it carefully. The hotel's logo was embossed in gold on one side, but there was nothing else, no indication of who had checked her in or any record of her stay. It felt oddly impersonal, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling within her mind. She flipped it over, hoping for some hidden information, but it remained blank. Emma's heart sank a little further as she placed the keycard back on the table. This wasn't just any hotel, it was a place shrouded in mystery. She turned to scan the rest of the room again, hoping for anything that might help unlock her memory. Her gaze landed on a small note crumpled near the edge of the desk. Curiosity piqued, she reached for it and smoothed out the wrinkles with trembling fingers. The ink was smudged in places, but she could still make out the hurriedly scrawled words. "Meet me at 8 p.m., don't forget your promise." Emma's pulse quickened as she read those words again. The cryptic message sent a jolt through her system. What promise? Who had she been meeting? The time etched on the note reverberated in her mind, 8 p.m., and yet it felt like an eternity ago. Glancing at the clock on the wall, she noticed that it was now nearing noon. Where had those hours gone? She bit her lip in concentration. This could be a crucial piece of information, but she had no recollection of making any plans or promises to anyone. Frustration bubbled within her as she tried to recall faces or conversations from last night but found herself grasping at shadows instead. Emma stepped away from the desk and began pacing around the room, searching for more clues. Her senses heightened, every creak of the floorboards beneath her feet seemed amplified in the silence. She approached the closet, its doors slightly ajar, and peered inside. A few garments hung neatly on hangers, a black dress with lace details and a pair of heels that looked brand new. She picked up the dress and held it against herself, noting how elegant it appeared compared to what she wore, a simple t-shirt and pajama pants that felt too casual for such an upscale ensemble. Had she dressed up for an occasion? A party? Or perhaps a date? Each possibility sent a fresh wave of confusion spiraling through her. As she set the dress back into place, Emma reached into one of the pockets and discovered a small silver bracelet tucked away inside, a delicate piece adorned with tiny charms that jingled softly as she pulled it free. Her heart raced again. Something about this bracelet felt familiar, almost comforting, but she couldn't recall ever owning it. With each new discovery, fragments of a story began to weave themselves together in her mind. Laughter shared over drinks, whispered secrets exchanged under dim lights, but they were just that, fragments that slipped away before forming into anything concrete. Returning to the bedside table, Emma took another look at everything laid out before her, the wine bottle, keycard, and now this bracelet, all remnants of a night lost to her memory. They were pieces of a puzzle waiting to be assembled, yet each piece felt intentionally designed to lead her somewhere dark and uncharted. She needed help, someone must know what had happened or where she had been last night. With determination swelling within her chest, Emma resolved to uncover these mysteries one step at a time. But first, she would need to leave this room behind and step into whatever awaited her beyond those heavy curtains, a world brimming with questions and perhaps some much-needed answers. Emma stood frozen in the center of the room, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The unsettling sensation that she was being watched crept over her like a cold shadow, wrapping around her throat and squeezing tightly. She couldn't shake the feeling that unseen eyes monitored her every move, waiting for her to make a mistake. This paranoia gnawed at her insides, amplifying her anxiety and drowning her in a sea of dread. As she took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, fragmented memories began to flicker in and out of focus. There were flashes of laughter, bright lights, and the sound of music pulsing through the night. Yet each recollection felt like sand slipping through her fingers. Just when she thought she had grasped something substantial, it would dissolve into nothingness. Emma closed her eyes tightly, wishing to summon a clearer picture of what had happened, but all she found was an overwhelming void. Every detail seemed to taunt her, the half-empty wine bottle on the table, the strange keycard resting beside it, and the cryptic note she had discovered. They were like puzzle pieces with no picture on the box to guide her. What did they mean? Had she met someone who could help explain this chaos? Or had she stepped into something far more dangerous than she could comprehend? Her thoughts spiraled further as she recalled the way the receptionist had looked at her when she checked in, an odd mixture of concern and curiosity swirling in their eyes. Had they seen something happen? Were they perhaps involved in whatever dark twist of fate had led her here? The questions multiplied with each passing moment, feeding into her growing anxiety. Emma felt a chill run down her spine as she imagined shadows lurking just outside the door, waiting for her to make a move. The hotel room felt like a trap, a cocoon of confusion from which she desperately wanted to escape but feared what awaited her beyond those four walls. What if she was walking into danger? What if the people around her were not who they seemed? She paced back and forth, rubbing her arms as though trying to physically ward off the creeping anxiety that enveloped her. Every creak of the floorboards echoed in the silence, each sound amplifying her fear. She couldn't tell if it was simply paranoia or if there truly was someone watching from somewhere within the hotel. Her mind raced with thoughts of who might have been with her last night. Had it been friends celebrating a milestone or strangers drawn together by chance? The memories were so fleeting that they felt like dreams fading upon waking, a cruel reminder of what she had lost. In a moment of desperation, Emma turned towards the mirror once more. Staring at her reflection, she tried to find some semblance of strength within herself. "You can do this," she whispered quietly, though doubt gnawed at every word. She needed to be brave, she needed answers. But how could she face whatever lay ahead when fear clung to her like a second skin? Suddenly, there was a soft knock at the door that sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. Emma froze again, breath caught in her throat as panic surged within her. Who could it be? Would it be someone coming to help or someone who meant harm? Her heart raced as she considered all potential outcomes. "Hello?" came a voice from beyond the door, soft and gentle but laced with urgency. "Is everything all right in there?" It was the receptionist's voice, the same one who had greeted her upon arrival. Emma hesitated, weighing whether to respond or remain silent. The urge to hide overwhelmed her, yet somewhere deep down, a flicker of hope urged her forward. Maybe this person could provide clarity amidst the fog that clouded her mind. Taking another steadying breath, Emma approached the door and placed a hand against its surface as if seeking reassurance from it. I need help," she finally called out, forcing herself to keep calm despite the tremor in her voice. There was a brief pause before the receptionist spoke again. "Just hold on, I'm coming in." Emma's heart raced anew as she heard the sound of keys jingling and then the click of the lock being turned. As the door swung open slowly, revealing the receptionist standing there with concern etched across their face, Emma felt a mix of relief and apprehension wash over her. Was this person here to help unravel the tangled web of confusion surrounding her? Or would they add another layer of complexity to an already chaotic situation? Steeling herself for whatever came next, Emma took a step forward, ready to confront both the stranger and whatever truths lay hidden within herself, a journey into uncertainty where answers awaited just out of reach but desperately longed for nonetheless. As the door swung open, revealing the receptionist, Emma felt a rush of mixed emotions. The person standing before her was not what she expected. The receptionist had an almost theatrical flair, wearing a bright floral shirt that clashed with the muted colors of the hotel's interior. Their wide smile seemed to stretch ear to ear, revealing a set of pearly white teeth that glimmered under the dim light. "Good morning. I'm so glad to see you're awake," they exclaimed, their voice bubbling with enthusiasm. "I was just about to send someone to check on you. My name is Jamie, and I'm here to help with anything you need." Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of unease wash over her as she studied Jamie's overly cheerful demeanor. There was something almost too polished about their friendliness, an air of rehearsed charm that set off alarms in her mind. As Jamie stepped into the room, their eyes darted around as if assessing every detail. "Is everything all right? You seem a bit disoriented," Jamie said, tilting their heads slightly as they observed Emma's expression. I'm fine," Emma stammered, though she knew it wasn't entirely true. "I just need some answers about last night." "Ah, last night." Jamie clapped their hands together excitedly, but there was something in the way their smile faltered for just a moment that made Emma's heart race. "It's always such a whirlwind of activity here. We have guests coming and going at all hours." Emma narrowed her eyes slightly. "Can you tell me what happened? I woke up here with no memory of how I got here." "Oh, sweetie, it happens more often than you think," Jamie replied with a chuckle that felt forced. "People come for a little escape and sometimes forget their way home, figuratively speaking, of course." Their laughter echoed in the room, but Emma felt no humor in it. "Right," Emma said slowly, skepticism lacing her tone. "But I need specific details. Did I check in alone? Were there any unusual incidents?" Jamie's expression shifted quickly, the playful brightness dimmed as they glanced around the room as if searching for an escape route. "Well, they began cautiously. You did arrive with a group of friends. Quite a lively bunch. But things can get a little chaotic during celebrations." Emma's stomach twisted at the mention of friends. She couldn't recall anyone from last night, and Jamie's vague response only deepened her unease. "What do you mean by chaotic?" she pressed. "Oh, nothing serious." Jamie waved their hand dismissively, but there was an edge to their voice now, a hint of nervousness that made Emma even more suspicious. "Just some dancing and laughter. You know how it is when people let loose." They leaned in closer, lowering their voice conspiratorially. "But trust me, everyone has their fun in their own way." A chill ran down Emma's spine at the evasiveness laced within Jamie's cheerful facade. It felt like they were hiding something vital about her night that she desperately needed to understand. She took a step back from the doorframe and crossed her arms defensively. "Did anyone say anything specific? About me or what happened?" Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the rising anxiety within her. "Oh, dear. There were so many conversations happening at once, Jamie replied with an exaggerated wave of their hand as if brushing away Emma's concerns. But I do remember someone mentioning a promise, that you shouldn't forget your promise. Their eyes twinkled momentarily before darting away. The words struck Emma like lightning. They echoed the cryptic note she had found earlier. What promise? Her voice rose slightly with urgency. Jamie hesitated for a brief second too long before responding. Oh, just some friendly banter. People say all sorts of things when they're having fun. You know how it goes. Emma could feel frustration bubbling beneath her surface. This was getting them nowhere. It was evident that Jamie was holding back information, perhaps out of loyalty to other guests or due to some unspoken hotel policy, but it only fueled her anxiety further. I need to find out what really happened last night, she said firmly, locking eyes with Jamie. You can't keep dodging my questions. Their smile faltered again for just an instant before returning with renewed energy. Of course. But I really think it would be best for you to take a moment to collect yourself first. Their tone took on an oddly soothing quality that felt disingenuous given the circumstances. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that there was more lurking beneath Jamie's bubbly persona, an undercurrent of something darker that she couldn't quite place. As much as she wanted to trust this person who seemed eager to help, every instinct shouted at her to tread carefully. Maybe I should explore the hotel, Emma suggested cautiously, trying to regain some control over the situation. Absolutely. That sounds like a splendid idea. Jamie exclaimed too readily, their enthusiasm returning as if they were relieved by her decision. The lobby is lovely this time of day. You might meet some interesting guests. As Jamie stepped aside to let Emma pass into the hallway beyond the door, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were not just a quirky hotel receptionist but possibly a key player in whatever mystery had unfolded over the past night. A mystery she needed desperately to unravel before it consumed her entirely. Emma stepped into the hallway, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and dread. The vibrant decor of the hotel contrasted sharply with the turmoil inside her mind. She felt like a detective in a noir film, piecing together fragments of a story that remained just out of reach. As she walked, her thoughts were consumed by Jamie's evasive behavior and the cryptic note about a promise. But there was something else nagging at her, a feeling that she needed to connect with the outside world. She turned down a corridor lined with abstract paintings and plush carpets, searching for a familiar corner where she might find some semblance of clarity. After what felt like an eternity, she spotted a small table where guests could sit while waiting for their rides or meetings. There, among scattered pamphlets and coasters, lay her phone, its screen cracked but still functional. With a surge of relief, she snatched it up and pressed the power button. The screen lit up and her breath caught when she saw the number of missed calls, 5 from an unknown number. A wave of anxiety washed over her as she tapped on the call log, her fingers trembling. Who had been trying to reach her? And why couldn't she remember anyone calling? She scrolled through the notifications, her heart sinking further as she noticed a single text message from that same unknown number. The message was brief but chilling. Get out while you still can. They're watching. Emma's breath hitched in her throat as she read and reread those words. Who was watching? What danger lurked just beyond the confines of this hotel? She felt as if ice had settled in her veins. The room around her began to feel smaller and more suffocating. Panic threatened to overwhelm her as she tried to make sense of it all. Had someone seen something happen last night? Were they warning her about Jamie or someone else entirely? The earlier feeling of being watched slammed back into focus, intensifying with each thought that raced through her mind. As she looked up from her phone, Emma scanned the hallway nervously, half expecting to see shadows lurking at either end. She could feel the weight of eyes on her again, though this time it was accompanied by an urgency that made her skin crawl. She needed answers, and fast. Clutching her phone tightly, Emma turned away from the table and headed toward the nearest stairwell. Her instincts screamed at her to escape this place before it swallowed her whole. She moved quickly but cautiously, wanting to avoid drawing any more attention to herself than necessary. As she descended the stairs, every creak of the steps echoed in her ears like an alarm bell. Reaching the ground floor, Emma stepped into a bustling lobby filled with guests checking in and out, their chatter blending into a cacophony that made it hard for her to think clearly. She maneuvered through groups of people while keeping her head down, desperately trying to remain inconspicuous. In an attempt to gather herself, Emma slipped into a quiet corner by a large window overlooking the street outside. She took a moment to steady her breathing and reviewed the text message once more. Get out while you still can. It felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, a warning from someone who understood the dangers that lurked within these walls. As she continued to process everything, Emma's mind raced with possibilities. Who had sent that message? Was it someone from last night? A friend who had witnessed something she hadn't? Or perhaps even someone with ulterior motives who wanted to silence her? She glanced around again at the lobby's busy activity as if trying to spot anyone suspicious among the crowd, someone who might be watching too closely or paying too much attention to this young woman standing alone with uncertainty etched across her face. Just then, Emma caught sight of Jamie chatting animatedly with another guest near the front desk. Their expression was animated, but something about their demeanor sent another shiver down Emma's spine. Was there malice hidden behind that bright smile? The way they gestured towards Emma felt too pointed, too deliberate. Feeling exposed under their gaze, Emma quickly pulled out her phone again and typed out a response to the unknown number. "Who is this? What do you know?" Her finger hovered over the send button, dread mixed with hope churned in her stomach as she contemplated what could happen next. Would they respond? Would they divulge information that could help protect her? Or would it only deepen the mystery surrounding last night? Finally gathering enough courage, she pressed send and waited anxiously for a reply, every second stretching into an eternity. In this strange hotel filled with secrets and uncertainty, Emma understood one thing clearly: time was not on her side. She needed answers before whatever threat loomed so close became impossible to escape. With her heart racing and a sense of urgency propelling her forward, Emma took a deep breath and steeled herself for the investigation that lay ahead. She needed to retrace her steps, piece together the puzzle of her lost night, and uncover the truth behind the cryptic warning she had received. The hotel felt like a labyrinth, and she was determined to navigate its twists and turns. Emma made her way back toward the lobby, keeping her eyes peeled for anyone who might provide insight into what had transpired. She scanned the bustling room filled with conversations and laughter, but it felt surreal, almost like a scene from a movie where everyone else was in on a secret she was not privy to. Spotting Jamie behind the front desk, she approached cautiously. The receptionist's demeanor remained overly cheerful as they greeted her, but Emma could sense an underlying tension in their smile. "Back so soon? Did you need help finding something?" Jamie asked, their voice bright but laced with something almost defensive. "I need to ask you some questions about last night," Emma said firmly, determination lining her voice. "I want to know who I was with and what happened." "Oh, honey," Jamie replied, their tone shifting slightly as they leaned closer over the desk. "You know how it is. A night like that becomes a blur for everyone involved. Let's not dwell on those details." Emma narrowed her eyes at Jamie's evasiveness. "It's important to me. I received a message warning me that I'm in danger. This isn't just about having fun anymore." The smile faltered again, replaced by a flicker of something Emma couldn't quite decipher. Was it concern or fear? "Perhaps it would be best to talk about this somewhere more private?" Jamie suggested hesitantly. "Why? What do you know?" Emma pressed, feeling frustration bubbling inside her. But before Jamie could respond, another hotel employee approached, a tall man with a clipboard and an air of authority. "Jamie, we need to go over the check-ins for last night," he said abruptly, cutting off whatever conversation was about to unfold. Emma felt a pang of disappointment as Jamie nodded quickly and excused themselves from the conversation. Realizing she wouldn't get any more answers from them at that moment, Emma turned away and headed toward the seating area where guests were mingling. She approached a small group clustered around a table filled with drinks and shared stories, hoping someone might recall seeing her the previous night. "Excuse me," she interrupted gently but firmly, drawing their attention. "I'm sorry to intrude, but I need your help. Did any of you happen to see me last night? I woke up here without remembering anything." The group exchanged glances before one woman with curly hair leaned forward. "You? Oh yeah, you were here." Her voice was lively but tinged with uncertainty. "You were with some friends, a wild crowd. Everyone seemed to be having a blast. Can you tell me anything specific?" Emma asked eagerly, hanging on to every word. The woman frowned slightly as she searched her memory. "There was definitely dancing. And I think there was an argument at one point, nothing too serious, but you seemed upset afterward." "An argument?" Emma's mind raced with implications of what that could mean. "Do you remember who was involved?" "Not really," the woman replied apologetically. "It was all kind of chaotic. I just remember seeing you step outside for some fresh air." Emma's heart sank at this revelation. Stepping outside could have led to anything or anyone waiting in the shadows. "Did you see anyone with me?" "I think there were 3 people," another guest chimed in, a man with dark hair and an easy smile. "But honestly, there were so many faces around that night, it's hard to keep track." Frustrated yet hungry for more information, Emma thanked them for their help and drifted away from their table. She felt like she was running in circles, each clue leading her deeper into confusion rather than clarity. Determined not to give up, she decided to venture towards the hotel bar area where she hoped more guests might linger and share their insights about last night's events. The bar was dimly lit and filled with laughter. Several patrons were engaged in animated conversations over cocktails. As she approached the bar counter, she spotted a bartender polishing glasses behind the counter. A young woman with short blonde hair looked up as Emma approached. "Hey there. What can I get for you?" she asked cheerily. "I actually don't want anything to drink," Emma said quickly, feeling urgency seep into her voice again. "I'm trying to piece together what happened here last night. Can you help me?" The bartender raised an eyebrow curiously but nodded slowly. "Sure. What do you remember?" "Not much," Emma admitted grimly. "Just bits and pieces. Someone warned me I might be in danger after I woke up this morning." "That sounds intense." The bartender leaned in closer as if drawn by Emma's seriousness. "There were some interesting characters hanging around last night. Things can get pretty wild during our weekend rush." "Interesting how?" Emma pressed. "Well," the bartender began cautiously, glancing around the bar before lowering their voice further, "the usual crowd is fun-loving, but sometimes people bring unexpected guests." They paused before adding quietly, "Just be careful who you trust around here." Emma felt another wave of apprehension wash over her as she absorbed this information. Every person she spoke to added another layer of complexity to this unfolding mystery, a web of connections that seemed increasingly tangled. "Thank you," she said sincerely before stepping back from the bar, feeling overwhelmed yet invigorated by this newfound sense of purpose. With each question asked and every answer received, she felt closer to uncovering what truly happened last night, an investigation that would lead her deeper into danger but also toward discovering who she really was amidst this chaos. As Emma exited the bar, her mind was still racing with the snippets of information she had gathered. Each encounter left her feeling more bewildered, yet there was a flicker of hope that she might piece it all together. She wandered through the hotel lobby, her eyes scanning for anything or anyone that could help illuminate the dark corners of her memory. It was then that she spotted him, a tall figure leaning against a pillar, seemingly waiting for someone. He had tousled dark hair and an easy smile that felt both inviting and unsettling. There was something familiar about him, a recognition that sent a jolt through her, even though she couldn't quite place where she might have seen him before. As if sensing her gaze, the stranger turned and locked eyes with Emma. An amused glint sparkled in his eye as he pushed off the pillar and walked toward her. "Emma, right?" he said confidently, a hint of mischief in his voice. Her heart raced at the sound of her name. "Yes, who are you?" she asked cautiously, taking a step back. There was an air of intrigue about him that both captivated and unnerved her. "I'm Alex," he replied, flashing a charming smile that could easily disarm anyone. "I think we have some unfinished business from last night." Emma frowned, her instincts flaring up. "Unfinished business? I don't remember you at all." "Which is precisely why I'm here," Alex said smoothly, his tone playful yet serious. "You've been trying to piece together what happened, right? Let me help you." She hesitated, wary of this unexpected stranger who seemed to know more than he should. "How do you know my name? What do you want from me?" Alex raised his hands in mock surrender, his expression shifting to one of concern. "I promise I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want to make sure you're safe." His gaze turned serious as he continued, "You were involved in something last night, something you need to be careful about." The weight of his words hung heavy in the air between them. Emma felt a mix of curiosity and skepticism swirl within her. "What do you mean?" "There were people looking for you," Alex said quietly, glancing around as if someone might overhear them. "I don't want to scare you, but things got out of hand really quickly." "What happened?" Emma pressed urgently, each word laced with desperation. "We were all at that party. Things escalated when someone started making threats," he explained carefully. "I tried to get you out of there when I saw it getting heated." Emma's mind raced as she tried to recall any details from the party, the faces, the voices, but it was all still too hazy. "But why can't I remember any of this?" she asked softly. "Sometimes our minds block out things we aren't ready to face," Alex replied, his voice almost soothing. "You were overwhelmed. It happens to everyone in chaotic situations." Emma studied him closely. There was sincerity in his eyes that made her want to trust him despite every instinct telling her to be cautious. Yet something deep inside warned her that trusting Alex could lead her down a dangerous path. "Why should I believe you?" she challenged, crossing her arms defensively. "Because I'm the only one who seems to care enough to find you," he answered earnestly, stepping closer. "Look, I know this is all confusing and scary for you right now, but we can sort it out together." Emma weighed his words carefully. Could he really be trusted? Or was he just another player in this tangled web? But then again, if he was telling the truth about the threats and people looking for her? "What do you suggest?" Emma asked finally, deciding to play along for now while keeping her guard up. We need to get out of here for a bit, Alex proposed earnestly. Somewhere quiet where we can talk without interruptions. She hesitated but felt an undeniable pull toward him, a desperate need for answers overshadowing her fear. All right, she agreed reluctantly. But if I feel like this is going sideways in any way. He raised an eyebrow at her warning but nodded with understanding. Fair enough. As they stepped outside into the cool air, Emma felt a rush of adrenaline course through her veins. This was uncharted territory, a leap into uncertainty guided by someone she barely knew but who claimed to have been by her side during chaos. They walked side by side down the street lined with flickering streetlights and murmurs of nightlife around them. The world felt alive but distant as they moved further away from the hotel, a step toward clarity or perhaps deeper into danger. Do you remember anything about what happened at the party? Alex asked as they turned a corner into a quieter alleyway bathed in shadows. Just bits and pieces, Emma confessed, feeling vulnerable under his scrutiny. There was laughter, then something darker. She paused before adding cautiously, and then I stepped outside. Good, Alex said thoughtfully. That's something. What do you mean by something? She asked. It means your mind is starting to piece things together on its own. We just need to dig deeper, he explained with an encouraging nod. Emma looked up at him. There was determination etched on his face and something else that made her uneasy yet hopeful at once. Here they were, two strangers entwined by fate amidst uncertainty, and perhaps they were each other's only chance at unraveling the mystery that surrounded them both. As they continued their walk through unfamiliar streets illuminated by moonlight and shadows alike, Emma knew one thing for certain: this unexpected encounter with Alex would change everything, whether for better or worse remained to be seen. As Emma and Alex made their way deeper into the quiet alley, the sounds of the bustling street faded behind them. The cool night air felt refreshing against her skin, but a knot of anxiety remained in her stomach. With each step, she was acutely aware of the weight of her fragmented memories pressing down on her, a swirling storm of confusion, fear, and fleeting glimpses of the night she couldn't fully recall. Are you all right? Alex asked, glancing sideways at her. His voice pulled her from her thoughts, and she nodded, though uncertainty lingered in her gaze. I'm just trying to piece everything together, she admitted, feeling vulnerable yet determined. Something happened last night, and I can't shake the feeling that it's important. Alex slowed his pace, matching her stride as he encouraged her to share more. What are you remembering? Emma closed her eyes for a brief moment, searching the depths of her mind. There were flashes, images that flickered like an old film reel. Laughter filled the air, music pulsed like a heartbeat, and there was a vibrant crowd dancing under dim lights. She could almost feel the warmth of bodies moving together, the energy intoxicating. But then came the shift, a sudden jarring memory that shattered the joy of the earlier moments. A confrontation erupted in the corner of the room, voices raised in anger and tension crackled like electricity. She could see shadows moving quickly but couldn't discern any faces. The laughter faded into a distant echo as fear gripped her heart. Emma? Alex's voice pulled her back to reality again. I remember. I think there was an argument, she said slowly, grasping at the fragments that danced just out of reach. It escalated quickly, there were people shouting. His expression shifted as he listened intently. Do you remember who was involved? No, she replied tightly, frustration creeping in. It's all jumbled. Just flashes, like trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. Alex nodded thoughtfully as if weighing her words carefully. Sometimes it takes time for memories to surface fully. But if we keep talking about it, we might uncover more. As they continued walking, Emma felt the environment shift around them. The alleyway opened up into a small courtyard surrounded by old brick buildings adorned with twinkling fairy lights. The space was tranquil compared to the chaos she had just left behind, creating an almost surreal contrast. Let's sit here for a moment, Alex suggested, gesturing toward a weathered bench beneath the glow of soft lights. Emma agreed and took a seat, grateful for a moment to gather her thoughts amidst the strange journey they shared. As she stared up at the stars peeking through patches of cloud cover, another memory flickered, this time more vivid. She recalled standing outside for fresh air during the party. It had felt suffocating inside amidst all that energy and noise. She remembered leaning against a cold wall, breathing deeply while trying to steady herself when two figures emerged from the shadows nearby. Suddenly, one figure lunged at the other, an argument breaking out over something she couldn't hear clearly but felt distinctly threatening. Emma felt a jolt of adrenaline as she relived that moment. It was like watching a scene unfold in slow motion, fists clenching, voices rising dangerously until one of them turned sharply toward her with piercing eyes. Did you see something? Alex asked gently, his voice bringing her back once more. I did. Emma hesitated, feeling panic rise as she grasped for clarity. I saw someone get angry, someone looked at me like they wanted to hurt me. She shivered involuntarily at the memory. Alex leaned closer, his expression serious now. That's significant, it means you sensed a threat even if you didn't fully understand it at the time. But who were they? Emma questioned desperately, feeling lost again amid this web of uncertainty. I don't know yet, he replied softly but firmly. But we'll find out together. It's crucial that you trust your instincts, they're guiding you for a reason. As Emma absorbed his words, fragments continued to swirl in her mind, images of laughter intertwined with flashes of fear, the juxtaposition tugging at her heartstrings with each recollection. She began to realize how deeply intertwined those moments were. Joy turned sour in an instant when danger lurked nearby. Sitting there with Alex under the soft glow of lights felt oddly comforting despite everything else, their shared determination bridging gaps within both their stories as they sought answers together. I wish I could remember everything clearly, Emma confessed quietly as she focused on his reassuring presence beside her. I want to know what happened and why I feel so uneasy. Then we'll keep digging until we uncover every piece, Alex promised with conviction. You're stronger than you think. This isn't just about remembering, it's about reclaiming your narrative. His words resonated within Emma as they sat in silence for a moment longer, her heart steadying as hope began to blossom alongside uncertainty. Together they would navigate through these fragments until clarity emerged from chaos, a journey toward reclaiming not only lost memories but also a sense of safety amidst shadows lurking all around them. As Emma sat on the bench in the courtyard, surrounded by the soft glow of fairy lights and the distant sounds of the city, a sense of urgency gripped her. She needed to understand what had happened, not just for herself but also to uncover the truth behind the shadows looming over her. With Alex beside her, she felt an unexpected resolve growing within her. Maybe we should start by finding out if there were any incidents reported last night, Emma suggested, her voice steadying as determination took hold. Something must have happened at that party that triggered everything. Alex nodded, his expression shifting to one of focus. That's a good idea. If we can find out what went down, it might help connect the dots. They decided to head back toward the hotel, where Emma hoped she could access the front desk computer or at least speak with someone who had more information about last night's events. As they walked through the streets, Emma felt a mix of apprehension and anticipation swirling inside her, a nagging sense that she was on the brink of uncovering something significant. Once back in the lobby, they approached Jamie at the front desk. The receptionist's bright smile faltered slightly when they drew near, but they quickly masked it with cheerful professionalism. Welcome back. What can I do for you? Jamie asked, though there was a nervous edge to their tone. Emma took a deep breath. We need information about an incident that occurred last night, something that might be connected to me, she said firmly. Jamie's eyes widened for a moment before they quickly glanced around as if ensuring no one else was listening. I'm not sure I can disclose specific details, they replied cautiously. Please, Alex interjected, his tone earnest but pressing. This is important, we're trying to ensure her safety. After a moment of hesitation, Jamie relented, looking more serious now. Okay, but I can only give you limited information. There was an incident involving some guests who got into a heated argument after leaving your party. It escalated quickly and, well, there were reports of a fight. Emma's heart sank at this revelation. What kind of fight? There were witnesses who claimed one guest seemed aggressive, he was yelling at another person, and then things got physical, Jamie explained cautiously. That part of the story is still unfolding, however, it involved someone connected to a recent case that's making headlines. What kind of case? Emma pressed, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. Jamie hesitated again before continuing. There's been talk about an ongoing investigation related to organized crime in the area, a string of incidents linked to certain individuals who frequent places like this hotel. The pieces began to click into place in Emma's mind, sending shivers down her spine. Are you saying I was involved with criminals? I don't know how deeply you were involved, Jamie replied carefully. But based on witness accounts and what I've heard from other guests since last night, there seems to be a connection between your party and those individuals. Emma felt lightheaded as she processed this new information. The flashes of memory from earlier, the confrontation and tension, now took on an entirely different weight. She hadn't just stumbled into a chaotic party, she had become entangled in something much larger and more dangerous than she could have imagined. Do you know who these individuals are? Alex asked quickly, his gaze focused intently on Jamie. I can't provide names, Jamie said apologetically but with urgency in their voice. But if you're looking for answers, it might be best to tread carefully. There are people involved who would prefer certain things remain hidden. Emma felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was no longer just about reclaiming lost memories, it was about confronting a potential threat that loomed over her life. "I need to know more," she said firmly, determination igniting within her. As Jamie began to relay what little they knew about the ongoing investigation, details about how various guests had been linked to suspicious activities, Emma's mind raced with the implications. She had unknowingly crossed paths with dangerous individuals whose actions could impact her very existence. "Let's get out of here," Alex urged as Jamie finished speaking, concern etched across his face. "If there are people watching you and if they're connected to this crime, you shouldn't stay too long in one place." "Right," Emma agreed quickly, feeling as though time was slipping away from them like sand through an hourglass. As they exited the hotel and stepped into the chaos of the outside world once more, Emma felt both empowered and terrified by what she had learned. The reality that she was now linked to criminal activity sent waves of fear crashing against her resolve, but amid that fear lay an undeniable strength. Together with Alex by her side, Emma knew they would navigate this treacherous landscape toward uncovering truths hidden beneath layers of deception. A journey fraught with danger but necessary for reclaiming not only her memories but also her life as she faced whatever awaited them beyond those hotel walls. The air outside was thick with tension as Emma and Alex hurried through the dimly lit streets, their minds racing with the implications of what they had just uncovered. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing a sense of urgency. She needed answers and she needed them fast. The shadows of danger loomed closer and she could almost feel their presence trailing behind her. "We have to act quickly," Alex urged as they rounded a corner, his expression intense. "If those individuals are connected to the incident at the hotel, they might already be looking for you." "I know," Emma replied, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "But I need to remember more, anything that can help us understand why this is happening." They found shelter in a small cafe that was still open, its warm light spilling onto the street as if inviting them in. Emma felt a momentary reprieve as they sat down in a secluded booth, but the weight of uncertainty hung heavily between them. "Okay, let's think this through," Alex said, leaning forward. "What do you remember from the party? Anything at all that could lead us to those involved?" Emma closed her eyes and concentrated, trying to sift through the haze of her memories. The music echoed faintly in her mind, but it was the confrontation that loomed larger, the argument that had spiraled into chaos. She recalled standing outside, the cold air biting at her skin, and the sight of two men arguing heatedly. One of them had turned to her with an expression so fierce it sent chills down her spine. "There was someone who looked at me like I was a target," she murmured, her breath quickening. "His eyes. I can still see them. Do you remember anything about what he said?" Alex pressed urgently. "Just bits, something about being careful and not getting involved," Emma recalled. "And then I saw someone reach for something, a weapon?" Her heart raced as she grasped at the fading fragments. "Maybe it was a warning," Alex suggested. "They knew you were there and wanted to keep you out of whatever was unfolding." Emma nodded slowly, feeling a growing sense of dread as she pieced together the puzzle. "But if they're looking for me now, what if they think I know more than I do?" Just then, a figure stepped into the cafe, a man dressed in dark clothing with an unmistakable aura of menace. He scanned the room, his gaze sweeping over patrons until it locked onto Emma with a predatory intensity. Her breath caught in her throat as recognition washed over her. He was one of the men from the party. "Alex," she whispered urgently, pointing toward the man. "That's him. He was there." "Stay calm," Alex whispered back, his demeanor shifting to protective determination. "We need to get out of here without drawing attention." As they slipped out of their booth and moved toward the back exit, Emma's heart raced faster than ever. She could feel the man's gaze on her like daggers piercing through the crowd. They edged closer to freedom when suddenly she heard a voice behind them. "Leaving so soon?" The tone dripped with sarcasm. Emma turned slowly to see another figure materialize from behind, the second man from the party. Fear coiled tightly in her stomach as she realized they were trapped. "What do you want?" Alex demanded, stepping protectively in front of Emma. "Just a little chat," the first man said with a sly smile that sent shivers down Emma's spine. "You've been quite curious lately, asking questions we'd rather you not ask." "I don't know anything," Emma blurted out instinctively, backing against the wall as panic surged within her. The second man stepped closer, his eyes narrowing as he spoke low and threateningly. "That's where you're wrong. You've already seen too much." Emma felt her heart pounding in sync with every word he uttered. She couldn't let them intimidate her any longer. With adrenaline surging through her veins, she pushed past Alex and confronted them head-on. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." The first man laughed, an unsettling sound that echoed in Emma's ears, and gestured dismissively. "Oh really? What do you think you can do? You're just a scared girl in way over your head." In that moment, something shifted inside Emma, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. She recalled how Jamie had warned her about being careful who she trusted. Now was not the time for fear but for action. "Get away from us," she shouted boldly, surprising even herself with the strength behind her words. The men exchanged glances before grinning wickedly. There was no mistaking their intent now. This would not end peacefully. But before they could react further, Emma took hold of Alex's arm and bolted toward another exit at the back of the cafe. They burst into the night air just as chaos erupted behind them, the sound of chairs scraping against floors and startled shouts filling the space they left behind. Running through darkened streets felt surreal as adrenaline fueled their escape. Every step brought them closer to freedom but also deeper into unknown danger. "Where do we go?" Emma gasped between breaths, desperation clawing at her insides. "We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere we can regroup and figure out our next move," Alex replied briskly but calmly as they navigated through winding alleys. As they raced forward under dim streetlights casting long shadows behind them, Emma knew one thing for certain: this confrontation marked only the beginning of something much larger, a fight for survival against forces lurking just beyond grasp. And she would stop at nothing to reclaim not only her memories but also control over her life once again. After what felt like an eternity of running through darkened streets and twisting alleyways, Emma and Alex finally found themselves in a small, secluded park. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silvery light over the deserted benches and trees that stood sentinel around them. They leaned against a tree for support, breathing heavily, their hearts still racing from the adrenaline of their escape. "Are you all right?" Alex asked, concern etched across his face as he looked at Emma, whose mind was swirling with everything that had just transpired. "I think so," she replied, her voice shaky but determined. "But we can't stop here, we need to figure out what's going on." As the night air cooled around them, Emma felt a surge of clarity wash over her. The chaos of the past hours had stirred something deep within her, a realization that she could no longer hide from her past or the fragments of memory that haunted her. She needed to confront what had happened, not just for herself but for her future. "I remember more," Emma said suddenly, her voice gaining strength. "The argument, it wasn't just random. There was something about a deal gone wrong, something they didn't want me to see." Alex's eyes widened as he listened intently. "What do you mean?" "I think I saw something I wasn't supposed to see," she replied, desperation creeping back into her tone. "I remember being outside when the fight broke out. One of the men said something about the shipment and making sure she doesn't talk. That's why I was in danger." "Shipment?" Alex echoed, piecing together her words. "So it was more than just a party, this involved some sort of illegal activity." Emma nodded, feeling a chill run down her spine at the realization of how deeply entangled she had become in something far more sinister than she ever imagined. "It makes sense now, the arguments, the threats, they were after me to silence me." "We need to report this," Alex said firmly. "If there's a crime ring involved, it's not safe for you to be alone." "No," Emma interjected fiercely, shaking her head. "I can't be afraid anymore. I won't let them dictate my life." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "I'm done being a victim of this chaos." Alex studied her for a moment, admiration shining in his eyes. "You're right. You deserve to reclaim your life, and we can do this together." As they stood there under the veil of night, Emma felt the weight of uncertainty begin to lift slightly from her shoulders. She had already faced danger and emerged stronger. Now she needed to harness that strength to take control of her narrative. "Let's go back to the hotel," she said decisively. "I want to confront Jamie and find out everything I can about what's happening. If they know more about this situation, we need to get it out in the open." "Are you sure that's wise?" Alex asked skeptically. "If we don't act now, they'll continue to operate without anyone knowing," Emma replied with conviction. "Besides, I need closure on this. I won't let fear keep me from facing my past." With newfound determination coursing through her veins, they made their way back to the hotel, each step echoing with purpose and resolve. As they approached the entrance, Emma felt both apprehensive and empowered. She was ready to confront whatever awaited her inside. Inside the hotel lobby, things seemed normal at first glance. Guests checked in at the front desk while others chatted casually in various corners. But Emma felt an electric tension in the air, as though everyone else was oblivious to the darkness lurking beneath the surface. Spotting Jamie behind the front desk, Emma took a deep breath before striding forward confidently. "We need to talk," she announced firmly. Jamie looked startled at first but quickly masked their surprise with a forced smile. "Of course. How can I assist you today?" "I know about last night," Emma stated boldly, locking eyes with Jamie as she pressed forward without hesitation. "And I want answers." Jamie's expression shifted slightly, an amalgamation of concern and apprehension flickering across their features. I'm not sure there's much I can. You're going to tell me everything, Emma interrupted insistently. About what happened at that party and who was involved in whatever is going on here. For a moment, Jamie hesitated before glancing around nervously as if weighing their options carefully under scrutiny from both Emma and Alex. Finally relenting, Jamie stepped closer and lowered their voice cautiously. Okay, but you have to understand it's complicated. Emma felt a surge of hope mixed with trepidation as they prepared for what lay ahead, a confrontation that would lead her toward truth and self-discovery amid shadows threatening to engulf her once more. With resolve filling every fiber of her being and determination lighting up her path forward, Emma knew she was no longer just a victim caught in someone else's story. She was taking charge and reclaiming not only her memories but also her life. A journey toward confronting everything that had shaped her thus far. The sun rose slowly over the horizon, casting a warm glow across the city as Emma stood on the balcony of her apartment, a steaming cup of coffee cradled in her hands. The world outside seemed vibrant and alive, a stark contrast to the turmoil she had experienced just days ago. Reflecting on her journey, she felt a mixture of relief and resolve settle within her. The events of the past few days played back in her mind like a vivid film, each moment layered with lessons learned and truths uncovered. Emma had ventured into the depths of fear and uncertainty, navigating through shadows that had threatened to consume her. But now, standing here, she felt the weight of those experiences transform into something powerful, a sense of ownership over her narrative. She recalled the confrontation with Jamie at the hotel where she had finally demanded answers. The truth had emerged like a dawn breaking after a long night, revealing connections to criminal activities that had ensnared her without her knowledge. But more importantly, it had exposed a part of herself she had neglected for too long, her strength and resilience. Through every harrowing moment, every fragment of memory that surfaced, Emma realized she was not just a victim but a survivor. She had faced danger head-on and emerged from it not only with knowledge but also with an unshakable determination to reclaim her life. The experience had taught her that confronting fear could be liberating, that vulnerability could be a source of strength. As she took a sip of coffee, Emma's thoughts drifted to Alex, the unexpected ally who had stood by her side throughout this ordeal. His unwavering support had helped guide her through uncertainty and doubt. Together, they had unraveled the threads of a dangerous web, exposing truths that needed to be brought to light. Their shared experience forged an unbreakable bond built on trust and courage. But the journey wasn't over. There were still memories waiting to be uncovered, pieces of herself that remained shrouded in mystery. Emma knew this was part of healing, embracing both the light and dark within her as she moved forward. She felt a newfound appreciation for the complexities of life, how joy and pain often intertwine to shape who we are. With each passing day, Emma resolved to confront whatever lay ahead with open eyes and an open heart. The lessons learned would serve as both armor and compass. Never shy away from asking questions, trust your instincts, and remember that vulnerability is not weakness but an essential part of being human. Taking another sip of coffee, she turned from the balcony to face her apartment, now filled with new energy and possibility. It was time to reclaim every fragment of herself that had been lost or hidden away. She would dive into exploring those memories still locked within, the laughter shared with friends, moments of joy that deserved recognition amid the shadows. Emma also made a mental note to stay vigilant about the world around her. While life could be beautiful, it could also harbor darkness beneath its surface. Knowledge would be her shield as she navigated relationships and experiences moving forward, a reminder that she held the power to dictate which paths she would take. With renewed determination coursing through her veins, Emma decided it was time to reach out to reconnect with friends who had been part of her life before this whirlwind began. She wanted to share not just the triumphs but also the uncertainties she had faced along the way. It was important for her not only to embrace these connections again but also to foster them in new ways. As she set down her coffee cup and grabbed her phone, Emma felt empowered by what lay ahead, a life filled with potential for growth and discovery. Every step she took would build upon the foundation laid during these chaotic days, a journey toward understanding herself fully while honoring both the memories reclaimed and those yet to come. Emma smiled softly at the thought. Life's intricacies were hers to embrace fully now. She was ready for whatever awaited, a new chapter where she would write her own story, one where fear no longer dictated her choices but instead propelled her toward new horizons filled with promise and adventure.